So we'll start off with a quick review. This was how you've been applying the heel word, the turns, the crossover, and the pivots and stuff. Make sure all that's being practiced correctly. And then if we're still waiting for Todd, what I'll do is I'll have Enrique help you.
Okay.
And we'll start the recall process, and then we'll fill Todd in.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready, go ahead. Do your thing.
Pablo, heel.
Good turn. Good. Good. We'll try a couple more crossovers. Good. We'll come to a stop when you're ready. Very good. All those look good. Right, you're using the correct legs and everything. I think the first pivot kind of threw him off. Other than that, everything was looking real good. Any questions about that stuff? Nope. All right. So, do you have your long leash with you? So we'll move over here to the side. I'm gonna have Enrique help you and I'll coach you through it. The recall is very coordination heavy, so don't worry about trying to retain everything in the first go. You kind of learn it as you go along, okay? Probably gonna regret drinking this coffee.
You know what?
Regret drinking the coffee. There's no bathroom in anymore.
I don't drink coffee anymore when I'm recording because I get the shakes.
Oh.
Shaking.
I only drink it if I'm gonna be moving around. Coffee.
Yeah.
If I'm in my office, that's not gonna be a good day.
So are we switching off out the leash?
So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna leave both, and after you clip your blue one, go ahead and remove your poop bag because the short leash is gonna be dragging, so this way it doesn't get like broken off or anything like that. Alrighty, you just roll out that 30 feet there. Yeah, it gets pretty messy.
Todd's here.
Oh, he's here? Awesome. Hey, right on time. How you doing, Todd?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. So we just did a quick review of the heel. Everything was looking good.
Okay.
How's it been for you?
Good.
Good?
Yeah.
Excellent. He wasn't that excited when I showed up.
Yeah.
I showed up, he's like, oh, it's this guy.
Not this again.
So, for this exercise, we start with 2 leashes because what can happen is Pablo may come to learn or get savvy to the routine, which is you're going to be calling them away from each other. So then, like, as you're walking away, he'll just prematurely start following you, and it doesn't allow us to practice that recall, okay? So one person will be holding the short leash while the other person has the end of the long leash, okay? So I'll explain all the steps. Again, don't worry about trying to retain everything. This is super coordination heavy. And once you get the feel for it, you can do a couple of practice runs and you see how it's supposed to work. It makes a lot more sense, okay? So, will you be starting the first batch?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. So, with the long leash, one thing we want to be mindful of is you can get rope burn. You guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it sucks. So with the long leash here, what you want to do is get big old band-aid sitting there. Used to a couple of things. One is, did I ever show you guys the trainer hold for the leash? Okay, so I'll review that. So you got your handle here, right? I like to loop it over my thumb and I close my hand around it. Okay, so if we're to be walking and a dog lunges, it's not going to go anywhere. If we hold it like this, which is very common, that happens. People do this, and if you get a large dog, they'll break your fingers. I've also had people put their wrist like this, which is not too bad because typically people will like have the other hand here, but this can also slip off your hand. Okay, so with the trainer hold, it's super simple. It's just leash around the thumb, close, and this is very important when we do long leash stuff. So in case something catches Pablo's attention and he were to book it, and he hits the end of this leash, like he's not going to pull this out of your hand. He might pull your arm a bit and all that stuff, so you do have to brace a bit. But I'm not worried about him getting away and holding it like this. The next thing I like to do is, we have our hold. Depending on how you hold your remote with the long leash, will kind of dictate how you're going to approach this. But I'll have the other part of the leash in my hand like this. So as Pablo's moving towards me, I'm going to go like this, and I'm reeling in that extra slack as he moves towards me. And then at some point you may, stop doing so, is I get in the habit of doing this, okay? So this is another kind of secondary lock that, again, if he were to just try to book it, you're not getting 15 feet of slack rolling through your hand and burning yourself. So that's one way to do it. Sometimes for some people it's too much clutter. So what they'll do is they'll forget about this. They'll only do this, but you still have that lock right there, okay? So it just depends on your preference. So I'm moving back to Pablo. I'm going like this as he's moving towards me, and then I'll lock it once I'm ready. And then if I have to let it go, I simply just get real quick, just back and forth, okay? And it's gonna be a lot to think about, so again, don't worry about it. But what we're gonna do here is, does Pablo have any concept of recall at all? Selective?
Yeah.
Okay. Definitely selective. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're not gonna worry about the word come right now. We wanna teach Pablo that there's another answer to remote. So for the past couple of weeks it's been come to my side, or stay on my left side, or it's been put your butt down, or don't do that, right? Which, by the way, how's the reactivity been?
Actually,
Good.
pretty good, yeah.
Good? Okay, excellent. So with this, we're teaching Pablo that remote also means to move to you. Now, as we teach more stuff with dogs, people kind of wonder, like, how do they understand or associate what to do, because the sensation stays the same. The word changes, but he doesn't know what the word means. You can tap that if you like. For chewing
I
stuff?
have it.
Yeah. So for Pablo, when he's walking with you, if you're here to him, and let's say he's lagging, right? Now you're here, that when you tap him, he thinks, oh, I'm out of place, because you're supposed to be here. That's how he deciphers what the remote means at that moment. And then when you come to a stop and he's standing, you tap him, he goes, oh, I should be doing this, because again, you look different, right? So in this setting, you'd be far. So for him, when he feels a tap, he goes, oh, in this setting, it means to do this. Okay, so even though the sensation doesn't change, how he interprets it does change according to how life looks at him in that moment. Okay? Yep. Yep. There you go. Yep. What's your number?
29.
Let's go down to 22. So whenever, like, Pablo's eating stuff, my general rule of thumb is I just teach dogs don't pick up crap off the ground.
Yeah.
Because people drop. People drop crap, but there's even some very how do you say, not good people that put like poison in food and leave it at dog parks and stuff. So I just teach it as default rule, like don't pick up crap off the ground. So anytime you see him doing so, even if it's just sniffing, like he's sniffing for something, you can remote that, and he learns like it's just completely off limits. So if he plays fetch, like these sticks would be off limits, and he won't touch it. But if I pick up a stick and go, hey Pablo, let's go, and I throw it, now that I'm engaging with it, it becomes an object that he can engage with. But other than that, everything is just off limits. Otherwise, if you wanted just like a verbal cue, you could use like the leave it. Leave it is more so preventative, right? Like before he gets it. and then drop it would be when he has it. It'd be drop it, then the remote.
That's usually what we do.
Yeah.
We give them the remote part for
Yeah. So you can empower. So e-collar is great for stopping stuff. You know, like don't jump on this, don't bark at that,
Yeah.
don't eat that, don't pick that up. It's just that. Super simple. Obedience stuff is a little bit more nuanced because you have to teach the dog what to do in order to turn this off. Okay. So as a correctional tool, you can use that. I will limit you currently just only when he's on a leash or in an enclosed area. So like if you were to be off leash, like the lakefront, there's a lot of goose poop, and let's say correct him for eating the goose poop. My only concern at this stage would be if you correct him too high, he would run off because he hasn't learned recall yet. Okay. Once we cover recall and we're in that realm of okay, now we have more off leash reliability, then you can correct him and we're not worried about that runaway. Okay. But if he's on a leash and stuff, even on the long leash, you can't correct for stuff you don't want. Okay. So what we're gonna do here is for Rebecca, you're gonna walk away from Pablo. Todd's gonna hold the leash, and then what you're gonna do is you're gonna pull your leash until you see a little bit of tension, or you're gonna feel it too, on Pablo's collar, and we're gonna time it. So when he feels that tension, you're gonna start tapping, and you're gonna start walking backwards. Okay. At some point in the beginning, Pablo is most likely gonna move towards Todd because he's thinking heel. So you're gonna keep moving backwards and tapping, and that tension is gonna direct them towards you. Okay, so we're not saying anything, we're just tapping. And eventually he's gonna start moving to you. At that point, Todd would drop the leash. You keep moving backwards, but you stop tapping. Okay? As long as Pablo's moving towards you, we don't do anything. If you were to stop halfway, tap, tap, move back again. And as he's moving to you, you're also reeling in that leash. Okay? So a lot of stuff going on. She's probably regretting going first. It's okay. I'll coach you through it.
What hand do you normally have this in? Like the same one, or?
It just so I usually keep leash and remote in one hand. I'm trying to think. Oh, actually no. Remote over here. With these fingers, I can feed the leash through and then lock it when I need to. Okay. Right, and then lay it over, right, and then with these fingers here, you're just like grabbing with the three and just pulling forward. Doesn't need to be pretty, you're just getting rid of that slap, okay? Now don't worry about reeling all that leash as it comes towards you, you're just getting what you can. So in case he does like overshoot it, he's not gonna overshoot it by 30 feet and take you with him, he's only gonna overshoot it 10 feet or so, okay? So we're gonna keep moving back, and we'll move a little bit more this way so we have some more open space. And go anchor yourself there, Todd. There you go, good. And more to your right. Right there. So you see I can feel some tension on his collar. So now you're gonna tap, tap, up. Let's put that down. We're at 22.
Yep.
Let's go to 14. You got good contact today. Tap. 8. Tap, tap. Yep. And drop your leash, Todd. Tap, tap. Reel in your leash. Yep, you got it. Right there. Wait. Tap. There. Brace. Wait a second. Tap. Tap. Brace. And brace.
Great.
Good. We're gonna repeat that. Question. We'll walk it back. We'll go to like 10. There you go. Tap, 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 and drop. Tap, tap, and back. Good. Wait right there. Great. Tap. Great. Good. And wait a moment. And break.
Great.
Good. And repeat. praise. Wait a moment. Right. Good. 2 more. Tap. Tap. Yep. Drop. Tap. Yep. Right there. Good. Okay. Yeah. There you go. And praise. Yeah, boy. And praise. Good. One more. There you go. Go ahead and let your leash go slack. Just hold on to that handle. And you're going to say heel and just walk forward. And slow to stop when you're ready. Very good. A little sneak peek of how we'll kind of build all this stuff up. Okay. So, what we're doing here is just teaching them, of course, that tap in this scenario means to move to somebody. I don't know if you noticed in the first few, he was actually turning back towards Todd, right? Super common, because again, the remote has meant come to the hip, and he's thinking, well, I'm next to Dad, so why wouldn't I just go to Dad, right? One con to the remote collar with recall is, like, let's say you call Pablo, and you're where Pablo's at, I'm you, and there's someone in the middle, whether it be someone who knows or someone who doesn't know, is most likely he would run to that person. Okay, because he's thinking, the faster I get to somebody, the faster this is going to turn off. Okay, so if that happens, I do another recall. Okay, so I typically don't repeat stuff. I just give the cue and I reinforce it. In this instance, the reason why I do repeat it is because Pablo thinks he completed the task. He said, I was called, I ran to somebody, right? It just wasn't the right person. So then I'll call him again, because what can happen is if you remote him to try to get him to leave the person without any kind of other cue, is he'll literally like try to climb the person. Like you'll see him jumping and like going between the legs and stuff, because he's going, how close am I supposed to get to you? Okay. So by issuing the recall again, it's kind of like, nope, wrong person, over here. Now when I work with couples, it's really good because you're calling them off of each other. So it does help teach them to more easily disengage or break off of a person's body, okay? So if that does happen, like let's say you're in the training process and he goes to the wrong person and maybe you call him and he doesn't respond, one, we know we got something to work on, but then two, what I'll do is I'll just go over and grab him, because I know it's gonna happen. If he's gonna literally jump on the person and all that stuff, you'll scratch him up, so all right, I'll leave it as it is, I'll go grab him, but now we know we need to practice that, okay? Questions about this so far? So we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to swap handlers, and then after we do this round, we're going to start adding in the word cup. It makes it easier, okay? And you're at 10 still, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, keep going back, tap, tap, keep moving back, tap, yep, move back, tap, keep moving back, there you go, drop, good, right there. Tap, tap, tap. Go to, you're at, let's go to 7. Tap. Tap, tap. Grab his leash close to the collar, there, and just lightly pull up, tap, and now praise. You're gonna wait a second once you're done. break. Good, 4 more. Yep. So what we'll do now, because this is where it gets confusing, if without the come word you don't know when to let go, we'll go ahead and grab them again. Is once you start Todd, go to say cap. But that's also why we do the second leash. Because it does, you'll start to give the feet, go to the other person. We're gonna watch his
I tapped.
Oh, you did?
Right off the bat.
Oh, started moving. Tap. Move back here. Quick step back. Tap. Good. Tap. Tap. Turn the face him this way. There you go. Now backwards. Tap. Tap. Back. Hold right there. Tap. Tap. Grab his leash slightly, pull up. Yeah. There you go, and break. Yeah. Get him on there. Break. Break. Yeah, boy. 3 more. Hold. Wait a second. Yeah. Wait. Oh, wait. Yeah, not yet. I'm trying to wait out the preemptive leaving here. There you go. Tap, back, and I'll drop, tap, back. There you go. Good. Feeling that leash. Yep. Hold right there. Better. Light pull up, tap, there you go, good, great. Reinforce there you go, good. And break. Good, we're gonna do 2 more. Tap, and drop, back, tap, or drop, yep, good, excellent. Tap, tap. It's so funny he was doing it for you, but you won't do it for Todd. Tap. Go ahead and move back, tap, there you go. Turn, yep, back tap. Tap, and backwards, tap, 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 good, right there. Slight pressure up on the leash, there you go, and praise. Good, reinforce the sit there. Tap, tap, good. Reinforce, yep. Great. Good, we'll do 1 more.
So if he keeps coming to the wrong side, what do I do?
So, I was going to actually point that out. So for the recall, it actually doesn't matter where he lands.
Okay.
Unless you want him to land on a specific side, I just need him to land in your immediate space.
Okay.
So within a 2 to 3 foot radius of you.
Okay.
Front, right, left, back, between your legs, doesn't matter. If you wanted him to target a side, like for instance, for most of them, he was favoring left side,
Yeah.
right? And if you like that, what you would do is when you practice, have food with you, and then when he's moving towards you, you have your left hand out, and you keep feeding him here, and eventually he would target that side. Otherwise, there's a command that goes in between that like closes the recall to the heel position. It's not like, I teach it, but most people like never use it. So,
No, I'm saying I don't really mind.
Yeah,
Which
well,
side you come to.
yeah, it's usually, I tell people like, you can, but it's more work. Like, now we're okay with how it is. But I do want that in that immediate space. So one thing that I was having you do is he was veering off of it. Okay, so the exercise is super simple. Moving away from Pablo, but always facing Pablo. Okay, so if it's a straight shot, easy peasy. But if he goes off and bypasses you, you would pivot, face him, and then you move this way. If he came to you and moved off that way, you would pivot, face him, and then move this way. Okay, so you're making him complete the task 100%. So some people, the dog will land off 2 to 3 feet, and they'll walk over and they'll pick up. Oh, no, that's not a recall. And because what ends up happening with that is the dog will learn to kind of just land off to the side a few feet, and then in time they'll like slow down and then pass you up. So when you make them come 100% into your personal space, you're not going to have that issue. Okay. And then we were adding like the auto sits. So similar to heel. Heel is walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. Recall is come to me, stay with me, and sit. Okay, but it's not a stationary sit. It's just a kind of light sit. So when you would pet him and he'd get up, wiggly, correct him, reinforce it, pet him again, he'd get up, correct, reinforce. So he's going, oh, okay, when I get cold, I come here and sit down, and I'll get this praise, but I still have to keep this positioning. Okay? Questions? All right, we're gonna try one more, and then we're gonna start adding in that cue. That's what's called the leash. Good. And tap, drop. Yeah, there you go. Good. Tap. Tap. Move backwards. Good. Tap. 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 Wait right there. Tap. Light pressure. Tap. 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 Move back. Yep, you got it. Good job. Tap. 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 Now praise. Right, reinforce the position. Tap. Good.
Hey, how's it going?
Tap. Tap. There you go. Good. And praise. Good. Just want to bring him over here.
I know.
All right. So we're about the sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Too excited. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna flip things around a bit. Now we're gonna do the tap, but we're not gonna add in the leash pressure. Okay. So before it was leash pressure tapping to direct Pablo to you. And now we're trying to remove that so that she's just responding solely to the tapping. So we're going to issue the word come first. Most people, and myself, send the dog's name. So Pablo come. When you do this, you want to use an up note. So Pablo come, as opposed to Pablo come. Lower tones don't carry very well. So if this would be a very busy environment, you won't hear you. Okay? You're going to use that higher pitched sound. So you issue that cue first, and then start tapping. If we see him getting confused, because you're going to be tapping and then moving back, then you can add in that leash pressure to direct him towards you. Okay, so we're trying to wean that leash away as soon as possible so that he doesn't become solely reliant on it. Because when we do these things, the more you practice with that kind of training wheel approach, because dogs learn very quickly, the more it becomes needed for them to perform. Okay, so we're trying to transition right away into just solely remote. The other reason is not just for him, but as the handler, you're getting used to using that tool to reinforce what you're needing him to do. So if he ever should be off leash, you've done a lot of remote fiddling with it and all that stuff, the levels to get him to do stuff that in that moment you'd be able to get him to perform. Okay. So you're gonna go first. Okay. So let's go ahead and Rebecca will take the short leash again, and then you'll walk away with yeah. You'll just get some distance from Pablo. There he goes. That a boy. Good. So you're at the end there. Good. So you're going to issue the cue. Now, if Pablo does start running to you, you're still going to tap at least one time. Okay, at least get one in there.
Pablo, come.
Yep, tap.
Pablo, come.
And back, tap.
Pablo, come.
Tap, drop your leash. Add a boy. Good, praise. Force. Good. Face.
It's a good idea.
I know. Great. Good. 4 more. And as best you can, no repeats. No repeats. Because you called them 3 times.
Oh, okay.
So it's Pablo come and use that remote and your movement to get him to move towards you. Right? Yeah, wait a minute. Up, not yet, not yet.
Pablo, come.
Yeah. 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 Atta boy. Good. Good. Good.
You dropped like a meter. Pablo, come.
Yep, back. Tap one. Yep, you got it. Good. Oh, much better. Atta boy. Good. Yeah, I know. Excellent. Good. 2 more. That's the best one yet. And he should be okay here. There you go.
Pablo, come.
Yep, back tap. Excellent. Yep, there it is. Good. Good. Right. Good. Good. We'll do one more, then we'll swap.
Pablo, come.
Yep, back tap, drop. Good. Back tap, 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 tap. Good. Right. Back tap, 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 tap. Good. Oh, he's distracted. Tap, 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 tap. Go ahead and bump your number a bit. Like the 9 or 10. Yep, back tap, good. Back tap, tap, Right? Yep. Good. Good. Up. Yep. Tap. Tap. Good. Good. Want to swap handlers? And we'll change it up. We'll try going long ways like this. Wrong way, buddy. There you go. Good boy.
Pablo, come.
Back, tap, tap, drop. There you go. Good. Right there. Tap. And there you go. And break. Good. Wait a moment. Break.
Break.
Good. One more. Break.
Break.
Break. Put it bring him this way. He's like, I already know what's going to happen.
Pablo, come.
Back, tap, back. 1, 2, that's good. Turn to face him. Back, tap, 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 tap. Good, right there. Tap. 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 Good.
Just that.
Good, tap here. Tap, tap, tap. Tap. Light pull up on the leash. Tap. Good. Wait a moment. Break.
Break.
Good. 3 more.
Pablo, come.
Back tap, drop. Good. Front face, back tap, 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 tap. Yeah. Yep, tap, back, tap, tap, tap. What's your number right now?
11.
Let's go like 15. Back tap, 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 tap. Wait there. Tap. And break. Good. Up, back, tap, 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 tap. Right, good. Back, tap, tap, tap. Good job. Right. Break.
Break.
Good. Try 2 more. What's your bumper to now?
Now it's at 21.
Okay. So with all the running around and stuff, the color can shift. And you just adjust as you're going along. When you started off strong, and then you started not being so focused after the return. Good. Back, tap, tap, tap. Good, right there. Back, tap, 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 tap. Good. Better. There it is. And break. Break.
Break.
Good. Last one.
Pablo, come.
Tap, back, drop. Good. Very good.
Break.
Great. Excellent. Give them a moment breath. Good. So, questions so far about any of this? So the way that we're practicing this, not realistic. Okay, we're setting the foundation for realistic. Do you guys ever? I mean, do you come here with Pablo, or maybe you go by the lakefront river?
Occasionally, like on Saturday mornings, we'll go on a walk like towards the lakeshore.
Sure.
But we won't really let them off leash ever.
Okay. So what I do is take advantage of like these spaces. And when you go for that Saturday morning walk, you bring your long leash, put it in your bag, whatever. Walk with Pablo. Come here, swap your leashes out, break, and then you hold the end of your leash. And then you let Pablo be your dog. Squirrels, sniffing stuff, whatever. And I wait for him to get super distracted. Does he have any crate drive at all?
He likes squirrels.
Yeah, he's definitely interested in squirrels. He doesn't really care about birds or anything like that. But
Okay. So it's like, I know over by the lakefront, especially by the golf diversity or golf course, there's like tons of squirrels in those trees. As I go there with clients and take advantage of that if they have prey drive. So I go there, swap the leashes out, break, and then walk through all the trees with squirrels and let him just do his thing, right? He's over there, I'm 30 feet behind, and I'm just like letting him have a good old time. And then after a few minutes, Pablo come, get the return, good boy, wait a little bit, because sometimes the temptation of wanting to go back to the squirrels will cause him to prematurely break. He holds, break, let him go right back to those squirrels. Okay, so you can use, it's realistic because it's going to be distracted, and you can also use that distraction as a reward. So if I got a dog with a lot of play drive, it's great because we can really use that to our advantage. And you're building more to a realistic context. Because typically when people call their dogs, the dog is chasing something, running away, or running towards something they shouldn't, or engaged, right? So if he's playing with other dogs, things like that, you're trying to pull him out of that situation. And I like to think of like them being distracted as like kids playing video games. You know, the parents like, oh, go wash the dishes, and the kid's like, okay. And then like 30 minutes later, the parents like, oh, did you wash the dishes? They're like, oh no, because they didn't hear, right? Because they're so involved in those video games. Same thing for dogs. The longer he does the chase with the squirrels, the longer he's invested into something, the more disconnected he gets from you. Okay, so I'll let them. I'll let them. Good thing it's not chocolate. Be like 5 minutes, just really in tune to whoever it is, and then call him. So he's really deep into that thought process. Okay, comes back, great job. Reward him with having that freedom again, and then I might leave him alone for another 20 minutes. So if you're working together, you can do this as much as you want. But you saw how Pablo started prematurely, like already anticipating that you're just going to call me. So then you have to like hold it and like set it up. When you work solo, it's a little bit more difficult, okay, or maybe more difficult. So when you give him that freedom, initially you might find that Pablo will not leave your side. Okay, he might just hover around you, which is okay, because he's thinking you're going to call me back. So if you try to put a lot of energy, like come on Pablo, go play, go to the squirrels and all that stuff, he'll actually engage with you more. Okay. So I just tell him break and I ignore him. And I'll just purposely walk by trees with squirrels and bushes and flowers and all that stuff until maybe something gets his attention, and then I'll ignore him for a bit.
And you do that with the long leash?
With the long leash. Correct. Okay. Yeah. You're giving them, if you don't want to give them the full 30, you can cut it in half, hold it in the middle, give them 15, 10, whatever. but you're letting him have that freedom, and it's just kind of meandering as you're walking, okay? And then looking for those opportunities to call him, and like let's say he sees something, a lot of people will try to practice right when they get distracted. So then the next thing, so what they create is every time the dog thinks about something, they just right away run back to the owner, okay? Because they're thinking, you're just gonna call me. So that's why I let them get into it, okay? If you're doing this solo, you don't want to drill it 1,000 times. If I have like 30 minutes I'm going to spend with Pablo, I might give him the full 30 minutes of just doing whatever and calling him one time at the very end, okay? And then the next time I come back, again, 30 minutes, and I call him 5 times. The next time, 2 times. Then 1 time, then 1 time, then 3 times. I'm randomizing how many times I call him within a free session like that, so he doesn't get paranoid. Because if you drill it out 100 times, you're going to go there and he's like, well, there's no point in leaving because you're just going to call me 100 times, okay? If we find we create paranoia, then you have to work on creating comfort. So then I ignore the recall and I'll just come with Pablo, tell him break, and then just wander around with him. And at the end, I'll reel him in or walk up to him and leash him up and walk home and do no recall until I start to see him get comfortable and start to wander away. So like I think it was like the second to last one that you did, he just like took off and started going that way, right? Like that's what I would want to see when working with him by myself. I want to see him comfortable with that. When I say break, he goes, all right, and just does his dog, okay? Because it makes it easier to practice. But when he's too tuned into you, and every time you're like, oh, I'm gonna call him now, I'm like, whoop, I'm already coming because I'm not gonna give you the opportunity, okay? So it's a con, but it's a good con because that's actually what prevents dogs from running off. So a lot of people let the dog, they take the leash off, and the dog just boom, right? There's no hesitation, which means there's no concern. So that means that dog may take off and go somewhere else, right? So when we see the concern in the beginning, that's Pablo just checking in and going, all right, what can I do? What's allowed? What's not allowed? So that's going to prevent him from going, oh, there's a dog, 100 feet out. Let me go see that dog. We're not going to see that because of these boundaries. When we do off-leash stuff, to clarify, like when I had Rebecca do the heel, he had 30 foot of slack, and he was right there, right? And you can get up to no leash with this tool set that you have, okay? So for me, an off-leash trained dog is if I say heel, which is super tight and very strict, on or off leash, it looks the same, okay? So if I'm walking my dogs off leash and they have freedom, they're doing their doggy thing, but if I need them and I need them to be close and I give a cue, they're gonna respond immediately and perform that task to the degree that they would perform it on leash, okay? Most people define off leash as, oh, I walk my dog off leash and they don't run away, okay? It's not just that, because any dog can run away. They just haven't been in a context in which the dog has ran away. Does that make sense? Yeah. So, one thing you can start doing if you'd like to press Pablo's obedience is simply start transitioning towards practicing stuff on the long leash. So I come here, swap my leash out, Pablo break, maybe we wander for 15 minutes. I see a good opportunity, Pablo come. Comes to me, add a boy, wait a moment, put that leash, got that in my hand, he's got 30 feet slack, heel, maybe we heel for 5 minutes or so, but on the long leash, but he thinks there's no leash because he can't see it, right? So, and you're also kind of prepping yourself for like what happens when Pablo makes a mistake and can get up to 30 feet away from you, and like correcting issues like that, which is, it's the same thing. If Pablo gets ahead of you, you would still turn, except now you can get up to 30 feet away from each other, right? So then he's over here going, feeling the tapping, he's like, oh, Dad's all the way over there. He runs, catches up, back in position, and I just keep walking, okay? So everything stays the same. The only thing that's changing is your leash. Okay, questions so far? A recall is the one command that does take people the longest to teach because it requires you to go somewhere. Okay, so definitely if you have the means to go somewhere close by and practice once a day, you're gonna have a faster progression. Otherwise, if it's once a week, like let's say it's that Saturday morning walk, I wouldn't consider it to be fully reliable, like probably for a few months, okay, right? Because it's just once a week that you're practicing, and there tends to be like. I always give like steps for people. A lot of people do skip steps. So it's typically you go from short leash to long leash, right? To long leash dragging, to no leash enclosed area, to no leash unenclosed area. That's the progression that I give people. Okay, so life's not perfect. You hear me talk about fireworks and like dogs off leash and all that stuff because it happens. But that's ultimately when you need fully functional obedience, right? Is the more you practice, the more you're exposing yourself to a potential thing in life, right? But if we practice on occasion, you might get something, but not as frequent. Like here, we come across off-leash dogs all the time, right? Because we're always here, right? So our exposure to those things is much greater. So that's something you want to think about when you do practice with Pablo. Remember, your obedience is only as good as the environments that you practice in. So if it's a nice empty park, it will be great at the empty park. But if you're at Oz Park, maybe not so great. So then I start targeting these places, right? Earlier, Pablo got a little tangled up, and it wasn't too bad. We untangled him, no problem. I use that to my advantage if that were to happen in a recall. So if I'm calling Pablo and he gets tangled up, I'll watch him to make sure he doesn't get too tangled up, but I will make him return, okay? Because he's going, what the hell's going, what's all this, right? He's getting distracted, and I'm going, I called you. Because you're trying to replicate something that would happen in real life, right? So if something catches his attention in real life and you've not worked him through some kind of context, it's going to be a lot harder to make that happen. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I've even had dogs panic where they get wrapped up in the leash and they're like, right, and they're freaking out. And I'm telling the owner, call, like, make it happen, make it happen. And the owner's like, oh my God. And the dog finally comes and I go, great, let's take a break, let's talk about that. I was like, what happened? My dog got wrapped up, my dog panicked. I'm like, and what happened? I panicked. I'm like, and what else happened? I made the dog come back. What does that mean? If that ever happens in life, you now have practiced with it, okay? So that's something to keep in mind. I did have a person before becoming a client have their dog on a long leash, and they were playing with other dogs, and the long leash wrapped around the dog's leg and broke the leg. Okay, so do use your judgment. Okay, if it's just a simple wrap around, like a wrap around his butt and stuff, I work them through it. If you see several wraps around the leg, stop, reset, take off the leash and stuff. You know, there is risk there. But if you see he's panicking and you know you can make him work through it, I suggest that you do so. Okay. Questions about any of this stuff?
What was the order of things again?
Oh, sure.
Short leash, long leash drag, enclosed drag, and then open drag.
Enclosed, no leash. Unenclosed, no leash. Yeah. So that's the progression. And then a lot of people go from short leash, long leash, no leash. Okay. Now, the reason why I prolong this process is so that there's certain things that we didn't cover today. We'll cover in the next class, where I call it forcing mistakes. So earlier when I said every time you call Pablo, tap him. Okay. So if I'm Pablo, you call me, I respond, and now you tap. What do you think might happen?
I think that's wrong.
Yes, because you said something, he responded, and then the negative happened. So then he goes, wait, maybe I was wrong, right? And now you start to go off the opposite way. So if that happened, you would just keep tapping, move backwards to reaffirm for him, no, yes, you're supposed to be 2 feet, okay? So every time you call Pablo and you're practicing this, you will always be tapping, because the more you do that, the more likely you're gonna create that scenario that you can work him through it, okay? So we call that proofing, where no matter what it is he's doing when I say something, and even if there's a mistap, or I tap him too high on the collar and he panics, his first response should always be to still return. Okay? So that's one way we go about it. So do remember for this week, every time you call him, always do tap him. Don't worry about if he's responding the wrong way. We want to see that so that we can clarify, work him through it, make him return. Do remember always moving back, right? Whenever he gets caught up or he's maybe looks confused, that moving back is super important. Because let's say you're in a setting where he can't hear you, the tap will get his attention, and when he turns around and he sees this, that's his cue of I need you to return. Okay, so it's kind of like sit and down, type of stuff. The movement back is hey, come to me. The moment you see Pablo lock on, you can stop. If you stop short, tap, 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 move back again. He goes the wrong way, turn to face him, back, tap, tap. Okay. Anything else? So you have your homework for the week. So you can start if you like dabbling with like the long leash heel. The primary thing would be, of course, the recall. And then if anything pops up, you can let us know. Okay, awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.